Hello everyone, welcome back to Eddie Style channel. Today I'm gonna show you 5 real stories of reincarnation and I'll let you decide if they're true or not. Before I start, please subscribe to my channel and let's begin. Number 5. Jenny Cockell, England. For Jenny Cockell from England, her memories and feeling about her past life began when she was only 4 years old. She said to her parents that her name used to be Mary and that she remembered parts of her past life. She described her children and where she lived, but her most vivid memory was the one that caused her death. At only 4 years old, she said to her parents, "I died after I gave birth to my 8th child." One day, little Jenny took a piece of paper and drew a map of a town. Then, without any experience with maps, she took a real map and pointed at Ireland, specifically at a town called Malahide, and said, "I used to live here." Years later, when Jenny already had her own children, by mistake she found the map that she drew when she was a kid. She compared her map to the real town of Malahide in Ireland, and to her surprise, they were almost exactly identical. This realization made her leave everything and go to Ireland in a search of an answer. When she got to Malahide, she went to the church and researched some old records, and she found out that a woman by the name of Mary died after she had her 8th child. She also discovered that after Mary's death, her kids were sent to different orphanages. Jenny was shocked and intrigued. She couldn't believe that she might be Mary. She set her heart to find at least one of her children. She sent out an ad and eventually she met Sahnti, who was one of Mary's children. Jenny correctly identified the type of thread that Mary used to wear. She also recalled stories about the time that the children catched a bunny. She knew where their old house were, how it was built, and what was inside, and creepy enough, she also recognized people on old photos that Sahnti brought with him. After she met Sahnti, she went on and met more of her children. Some of them were not fully convinced that she was their mother, but most of them were convinced that their mother, that used to be Mary Sutton from Ireland, reincarnated to Jenny Cockell from England. Number 4. Nazih Al-Danaf, Lebanon. When Nazih was 18 months old, he began talking, but what he said was bizarre. He said things like, "I am not small, I am very big. I have 2 pistols and 4 hand grenades." Among the Druzes in Lebanon, reincarnation is taken very seriously, so his parents didn't interrupt him and were just listening. Nazih said that he was shot and murdered and that he wanted to go back home and visit his children. Eventually, his father took him back to the town of Kabershmal, where Nazih said he used to live. He made his dad drive all the way to his old house, assisting him with directions. This man was the son of the late Fawd Asad Hatabe, who had been shot and killed. Little Nazih asked to see the woman who used to be his wife. When he met her, she questioned him to be sure. Nazih told her who had built their gate and talked at length about the time that she dislocated her shoulder, correctly pointed at a cabin where Fawd used to store his guns. And he even went on to tell the story about the time that their daughter was poisoned by his medicine. Little Nazih knew very sensitive information about Fawd's life and their family, things that only Fawd himself could know. After all the stories and all the questions from the wife and from the family, everybody were convinced that little Nazih is in fact Fawd's reincarnation. Number 3. Purnima Ekanayake, Sri Lanka. Purnima was born and raised in Sri Lanka. Shortly after her birth, her mother noticed a little birthmarks on her chest. When Purnima began talking, she said eerie things like, "People that drive over other people on the street are bad." One day, Purnima's mom witnessed an accident near their home. She was very sad to see that. However, little Purnima comforted her and told her, "Don't be sad, Mom, because I came to you after a similar accident." Little Purnima told her that after the accident, she floated for a few days until she saw light and came to her mother. She also told her that she used to be a man and that she used to sell incenses for a living. Little Purnima told her mother that her past self used to be married to a woman named Kusumi, that he went to school until the 5th grade, that his mother's name was Simona, and that he died after he got run over by a large vehicle. A new teacher at her dad's school who heard the story decided to take a deeper look. He found out that there used to be a man by the name of Ginasada Pereira who used to live in the area Purnima mentioned. Surprisingly enough, the bus has driven over him exactly at the place of Purnima's birthmarks. Purnima's family was shocked and decided to take little Purnima to her old family. When Purnima met her old family, her new family discovered that everything Purnima told them was in fact true. Purnima also correctly identified her brother-in-law and shared personal details that she knew about him. And with so many matching facts, it's very difficult to call all of this just a mere coincidence. Number 2. Sahnti Devi, India. Sahnti Devi did not speak until she turned 4 years old. When she did start to speak, she talked about her husband and called herself Shaubin, meaning Shau's wife. She would often go to make observations and comparisons and talked about how her life now is very different than what they used to be. Initially, her parents ignored her, but after she talked about how she died after a failed surgery, they became interested. Sahnti told her parents that she died after a failed cesarean surgery, shocking them of her understanding of the procedure. She went on and described her husband as a fair man that wore glasses and had a wart on the side of his face. After research from her relatives, they found a man by the name of Pandit Kedarnath Chaube, who she claimed was her husband. They sent him a letter mentioning the details that Sahnti had given to them. The family finally received the letter from Kedarnath. He confirmed that her story matches with the story of his dead wife Lugdi, that in fact died after giving birth. After they met, Kedarnath tried to trick Sahnti by telling her that her husband was in fact his brother, but Sahnti didn't hesitate to correct this mistake, pointing out the wart of Kedarnath's face. She went on and told him about his favorite dishes. She told him about the well where she used to take her baths, and she also told him that she was very angry that he had remarried, even though they both decided that he wouldn't. Sahnti also correctly identified her son, who she gave birth to before dying. This story was so famous that even Mahatma Gandhi himself was interested. He talked about it with his 15-person council and tried to come up with an explanation, but neither of them could come up with a good reason to doubt the story. Number 1. James Leininger, USA. James Leininger was born in Louisiana, USA in 1998. When he was only 2 years old, James and his father visited the Cavanagh Flight Museum, setting some very strange things in motion. James was fascinated by the airplanes, especially those in the World War II section. Before they left, his dad bought him some toy planes. James played with the planes constantly, slamming them against the table and saying, "Airplane crash on fire." Very soon, he started to have nightmares very frequently. During those nightmares, James often screamed, "Airplane crash, plane on fire, little man can't get out." James told his parents that in his dreams, his airplane was shot down by the Japanese and then specified that his airplane craft was a Corsair. James also told them about a ship named Natoma that his airplane used to take off from. He also told them about a man named Jack Larson that used to work on the ship. His dad never heard those names before, so he began to make some research. He discovered that Natoma was indeed a carrier for the US during the World War II. He also discovered that the Corsair aircraft was used during this war. James's father kept his research, and soon enough, he discovered something really shocking. He discovered a veteran pilot by the name of Jack Larson who used to work on the ship. Larson told him about a pilot by the name of James Houston who died in an airplane crash on the exact spot where Leininger pointed on the map. Very shockingly, little James's story matched almost perfectly the story of James Houston. Little James also talked about Houston's sister and gave some details that only Houston himself could have known. This case is very famous and very well known. After multiple studies about little James' case, it is very hard to dispute that little James is in fact the reincarnation of James Houston. Those are just 5 stories out of 100 that pop around the world throughout the years. So what do you think about the stories? Could they possibly be true? Or is it just a work of the imagination? What do you believe happens after we die? And how would you react if somebody came to your house and told you that he used to be the person that you loved that died a long time ago? And then he would share some stories that only both of you knew. Please leave your thoughts down below in the comments, subscribe to Eddie Style channel, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.